Ladies and gentlemen, it must be Tuesday. 2 Tuesdays in a row, but we are here. We did have a storm last night, but not bad enough to keep us from the building today. Thank you all for joining us, and I must admit, it is very rewarding to see the chat that happens before we actually go live. I love it, so thank you very much for chatting with us before we go live. And Bobby Burkett, you're always the first guy in the chat. Thank you very much for being consistent. We do appreciate it. It was before 4 p.m. today. Well done. I also saw that we've got quite a few other guys with us. Jeremy, good evening. Sam is here. Kyle. So many familiar names, but not faces. I don't think I've met probably not even half of you guys, but it is good to have you. Brian, hey Brian, good evening. Who's Leroy Jenkins? Leroy Jenkins, who is that? Is that someone famous? I don't know who that is. But thank you for being here, Brian. And I don't know why you didn't go to the Taste of Stillwater. I'm sure you've got a great reason for it, but thank you for the offer of the tickets. The Taste of Stillwater is here tonight in Stillwater, and it's a fundraiser for all of our local schools, and it's basically all the restaurants in town put all their food in one big spot, and you can go pay one fee and eat all you can until it's all gone. So that's kind of a fun event. Speaking of food, JW is here tonight, and he played sous chef. He brought us miso, which is fantastic food. Thank you, JW. Good stuff. And of course, Colin's back there working the social and the chat, and Ernie hiding in the shadows. Ernie, are you working cameras tonight or just the magic box? Correct response. Now you'll notice I did not mention Stephen Bambrow. He's not here tonight because Stephen has family obligations, and family is truly first at Kicker. So Stephen, have a great night with your kids. That is really what's more fun than working anyway, right? I mean, that's really why we have jobs, and to support the family. So that's great. Let's see if there's any questions or any chat things that I should be looking at before we go live. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Jacob Lucky is going to be here tonight. Jacob, he's back from his travels, and he's going to be in the studio helping me out. In fact, Jacob's doing all the hard part. I'm just doing the fun part. So it's nice to have Jacob in the house to do the actual work. Kyle, good evening, Kyle. Thanks for being here. 10K subs. Whoa, that's a lot of subs. So Solo X18, yes, that's right. That's what that is right there. Solo X, I'm standing in front of it. Solo X18, we're going to go through some of that live on air because the Solo X18 is one of the most exciting products we've released in a while. And that's saying a lot because we've released LX amplifiers, Warhorse amplifiers, a family of Solo X products, but the 18 really, that is very exciting. We're also going to talk about some Bluetooth products, a Bluetooth receiver. We've got a KMC4 Marine Ready radio to talk about. And of course, all the fun stuff with the fail picks and the fun picks. So stick around. We'll be back in about 2 minutes and we'll go live.
For more than 50 years, Kicker has been rocking the planet on anything that moves. Kicker, the legacy continues.
Something bad, your hands on the wheel, got a sexy touch. It's enough to make me and my Chevy blush. Oh Lord, take it all off of that highway. Turn me on, I'll let you drive, babe. You can take it fast as you want to. Girl, little dirty looks damn good on you. Start me up, Stones on the radio. Girl, I love it when you let go. Don't waste your way in the wrong way. Get off on some 4x4 play.
Jacob, everybody knows why you wear a hat, right?
It's because I'm, I don't know.
Bad hair day.
Why do they think it's bad hair day?
Bad hair day. He's wearing a hat, must be bad hair day, right? Of course it is. So Jacob, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
It's been a little while since we've been on together.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I went to Missouri and I trained the creative car guys up there. So we went through, if any of you guys are watching, it was an awesome trip. We went up through Joplin, Springfield, and Columbia.
Missouri.
In Missouri, yeah. And we talked all about the new LX amplifiers. We talked about some of the new marine product that we have coming out. It was a really fun trip.
Talk about the facility they have for training.
Oh man, okay. So a little thing about Creative Car, they like to treat their vendor partners and anybody who comes to train them or visit them up there to, they've got what they call the barn up there, and it's a barn dominium, and this thing is absolutely massive. It's I'm having a count in my head how many rooms there are. So let's see. On the bottom floor, you've got like a parlor. On the right, there's a big walk-in kitchen with like a 10-foot table. And then on the left, there's a big TV with a bar next to it and some other stuff. Wet bar. And then you walk down the hallway to the right, and there are, I think, 2 bedrooms. There's 1 bathroom in the hallway, a laundry room, and then there's a master bathroom attached. And then you go upstairs, and there's like 6 more bedrooms and 4 more bathrooms upstairs. There's a balcony. I mean, had heated floors. This thing is, it's really awesome to stay in. And,
it's a barn.
You know, Nick, if you guys are watching, I really appreciate the hospitality y'all showed me to allow me to go stay in that. It was a blast.
Now, we must say that Creative Car Audio has been a Kicker dealer for a long time, and they are solid. How many stores they have? 5 stores?
Oh,
4 stores?
You know, I'm not even sure. I went to 3 of them, and there were 2 more stores that I visited, and I think 1 that I didn't see. So I think there were maybe 6
stores.
6 stores, maybe
and
more.
They are a solid outfit. I've trained those guys in the past, and Don is the owner. He takes really good care of his guys, takes really good care of his vendors, and that's why we're successful partners. So it was good training trip. So also something funny happened since you've been back, and I really want you to talk about it. So Corbin is on our R&D team. Corbin, hopefully you're watching tonight and you're chatting with us. We're going to tell this little story.
There he is, right there.
Corbin, you there? Oh, Corbin, yeah. Enjoying some hideaway. Oh, good. Good meal after fighting the battle of my enclosure not fitting in my Mustang. What year is his Mustang?
Oh, I think he said it was a 90.
90,
yeah,
okay.
So Corbin is super into drag racing and hot rods and all that, and he got a 90 Mustang that's cammed and everything. So I think so that him and his wife can take it down to the track and race it. But he was putting a sound system in it with some LX amplifiers, and he got, I guess I'll call it like a discount wiring kit. It's like a lightly used wire kit that got returned to us here at Kicker, and he purchased it and went to install it in his car, and turns out that there was 1/0 gauge wire in the packaging, but it's not real 1/0 gauge. You know, I won't disclose the brand that this is from, but it is about like a $30 kit or something on Amazon. And anyway, so I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to try and put it in the
right here.
Close, whoops, I'll pick that up in a second. In the zoom in area here, so you guys can see how much wire there actually is in this thing, and how much of it is casing. And then I'll hold up how much our 1/0 gauge wire. You guys can see a clear difference, even though it's not like up close. But just picking it up, you instantly know that like this wire is too light to be 1/0 gauge. So we were all teasing him about it today, like you know. But anyway, so he ran the whole wire through his car, and he's gonna have to get another wire kit and replace it with 0 gauge. But you know, it's funny. You know, we were passing this thing around, and Jeremy picked it up, and he said it felt like a toy because it's all like rubber, and like it's basically 4 gauge CCA inside of a I don't know, double thickness casing or something, but it's pretty funny. So we were telling Corbin that we were going to give him a hard time on the show tonight, but anyway, just kind of a cool thing to show you guys. Not all wire is created the same. So. And
at dinner, we decided that at some point, Corbin, you're going to be on the show. We're going to do like a 5 or 6 minute segment where we're going to bring Kicker employees on the show that have interesting stories to tell, and we're going to feature them. And Corbin, you're going to be on the top of the list because he's a great guy. We love Corbin. So anyway, let's talk about the first product we have. So again, we have 3 products we're going to showcase tonight because these are 3 new products that are shipping and available now. And we're going to start with the Power Sports. It is the KBTR. And I know some of our nomenclature is confusing. I get it. But the KBTR This is a Bluetooth receiver remote control. I'm gonna put this right on top of here. And we've got these powered up so that you can see what they look like when they're lit up. So I've got limited flexibility due to the power and ground here. And Jacob and I hobbled this together earlier this afternoon because we wanted to show you what they look like. So we're using our fused and ground distribution block from our marine line to power these up and show you. And you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I just didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, take over, man. You're young and helpful.
So, yeah. Anyway, so this guy's pretty cool. You guys will notice that kind of right offhand, you've got these little clamping deals. Like, what would you call those?
I would say they're locking tabs.
Locking tabs, yeah. Good word choice there. I couldn't think of anything. Anyway, so it fits most of your double switch knockouts in side-by-sides and quads and things like that. So I know a lot of you guys that do installs in side-by-sides are looking for something exactly like this, just a little Bluetooth unit that doesn't have a screen on it. It's low profile, it's easy to use. But there are a few things that set this guy apart from a lot of the other ones on the market. One thing that I want to note is that it has a separate subwoofer volume control. So you guys see you've got your knob here in the center to change your volume, and it's nice and notchy, it feels good. But then on the bottom, that is a sub minus and sub up button. So now you can change the volume of your subwoofer in your sound system independently from everything else without having to mount or hide secondary bass knob. This thing is IP66 rated. Aaron, what does IP66 mean?
I love this conversation. So we often hear IP blah, blah, blah numbers and letters and sometimes IPX. And IP66 means that you can take a high-powered water nozzle jet and spray the face of this thing off. So at the end of the weekend, you're cleaning off your side-by-side. Actually, my neighbor was doing it in his yard on Sunday afternoon. And you're hosing the thing off with high-powered jet to get all the muck and muckety-muck off of your side-by-side. That's a real word, muckety-muck, look it up. Muckety-muck off your side-by-side, and it will not damage the KBTR. Water will not pass through the buttons, the knob, or anywhere on the face of this. So you can get it completely soaking wet, and it will not damage it. That's what IP66 is. IP67 is fully submersible. Like this guy right here, this is IP66 and IP67, which means you can water jet it and it's submersible. You may recall that a couple of years ago now, Jacob put together a fish tank display, took one of these amplifiers, put it in the fish tank, and we powered it up for a year, and it worked beautifully for a year. And so that's what IP67 is, fully submersible. And to have them rated 6.6 and 6.7 is actually an important distinction, because a lot of people just assume that IP67 includes IP66, and it does not. It's actually a completely separate certification, and to certify both is very expensive, but it tells you exactly what you can and cannot do with this product. So that's the importance of it. A couple other things to talk about here, Jacob. Why do we have 3 sets of RCAs?
Well, you've got a front left and right output and a subwoofer left and right output so that you can control the subwoofer directly from the control on the unit. And that third one, I think, is just an auxiliary input. So it's, if you guys have a 3.5 mil cable or something, you're going to need to adapt it to dual RCA left and right. But that's so you can plug anything else into it that you want and use that as your source unit. So when you cycle your source on the unit, you're going to go from blue flashing, which was Bluetooth pairing, and now it's kind of hard to see, but the LEDs are now red on the background of this, and red indicates that you're in auxiliary mode. So that's Bluetooth pairing, and that's auxiliary. So just allows you guys some more flexibility. If you want to run like a radio, pipe the output into this, or if you want to use a CD player, DVD player, literally anything you want that can be converted to auxiliary.
You could also mix and match it with our other products.
Right.
Okay.
So like a Bluetooth CAN system, those can be used as a source, and you can run the auxiliary output to the auxiliary input of this. Power bars have an auxiliary output. You can pipe those into this, and then you can run your whole system off of just the power bar or off of just the Bluetooth cans. That's the neat thing about all of our power sports stuff, is that it's all kind of interchangeable, and you can use it together in a bunch of different applications.
We also have USB input. So if you're the kind of guy that likes to have a little bitty memory stick with all of your music on it, leave your phone in the truck, leave it locked up in the car when you go to the sand dunes or whatever, you just put your memory stick in here, and now you've got all of your music on your USB, so you're not actually taking your phone out on the water or the sand dune or whatever it is you're doing. So that's another way to have all of your music on hand and not have to worry about your device. So that's a nice addition. This is also can be used for charging. It's not 9 amp charging, it's low amperage charging, but it will actually charge your device as well. So that's a useful feature to have. And we do specifically have this amplifier sitting here because this is part of the Power Sports lineup. And this would be a great pairing, like if we're doing wine and cheese, but this is a Bluetooth receiver and amplifier instead of wine and cheese. And so you can pair these two together. So you would use your output, which is a stereo left-right output, go to your amp 1 input. Now, Aaron, it doesn't have front and rear output. So how do I drive 5 channels with just stereo output? Jacob, how do we do that?
There are a couple different ways with the PXA. You can use your fader switches on the amplifier to make all of it run basically using just the front outputs from that unit. You can have all your stereo channels work, and then you can run your subwoofer output to the sub input and have your fader switch set to look for sub input there. Of course, you can mess around with those switches and the positioning of the RCAs and configure it kind of however you want to. But there's another thing that we're coming out with for the PXA amplifiers that allow you to do some extra things with it.
Hey, Ernie, can you pull up my laptop, please? So we were in Vegas together doing the Knowledge Fest show, and we were introducing the KPT, which is the KICKER Power Sports Tune. There is DSP, a simple DSP built into these amplifiers. That's the 5-channel and the 4-channel. And that DSP is now accessible to you, the end user. So if you've got a side-by-side or personal watercraft and you want to tune it exactly the way you want it to sound, you can do that with the amplifier's built-in DSP. And we're going to have a little dongle available. It's going to be on kicker.com. It's just a little, almost looks like a USB stick. It's very small. And what you'll do is you'll take off this plate here, plug in that USB dongle, and it connects to a USB-C cable, connect it to your PC, not your Mac, connect it to your PC, and now you have that tuning software built into the amplifier. Again, that works with the 5-channel, the 4-channel, and it's a pretty powerful DSP. It's simple but powerful. Aaron, go back to my laptop, please. Just want to show you a couple of things it'll do. So if you're hooked up to the 5-channel amplifier, you'll have channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course subwoofer. You can set your crossover points independently, or you can link them left and right. You can also select your crossover style, Butterworth or Linkwitz, depending on what you like. Most of us around here are on the Linkwitz path. Let me go down there. So then you can do your 12 or 24 dB slopes. You'll notice that graphically up there it changes. And then you can adjust your high pass independently, your low pass. So you can do band pass filters, you can do all band pass, or you could just do all high pass, or whatever it is you need for your particular setup. And then you also have some, whoops, I'm moving too fast there. Yeah, you've got your subwoofer down here. And then if you want to link your equalizer and crossover, you can do that, like if you're bridging the amplifier. And then when you go back up here to your equalizer, it is a 5-band parametric, so you can choose your corner frequency, your center frequency, and then you can adjust the Q, which would be the bandwidth, and then of course, whoops, I jumped ahead of myself, and then you can adjust how much boost or cut. So you can dial in exactly what it is that you're looking for the frequency response of your system. And if you're a shop, if you're a retail shop, and maybe you do a lot of the same side-by-side, maybe it's an RZR or a General, whatever it is, if you do a bunch of the same vehicle, you can take that perfect tune, you can store it in your PC, and then you can simply flash that tune into the amplifier, saving all of that tweak and tune time. And of course, if you're the kind of guy that likes to share your tune, you can also share that tuning with your friends and colleagues and whomever. So again, that is built into the PXA amplifier, the 5-channel and the 4-channel. And if you bought the amplifier 2 years ago, it's also built into that amplifier. You just buy the dongle, download the software, and now you can tune your existing system. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. So yeah, I guess for me, the really cool thing is that if you guys do power sports sales, you can get a customer back into the store once you get that dongle, and you can add equalization to their system and crossovers and whatever you need to. So it's a nice way to get that customer back, to improve on their system without having to really add anything or make the install more complex. Yeah, it's just super cool that our engineers have unlocked that for anybody in the field to use if they have the software. I don't know, I'm excited. And a lot of people, I think, see some questions about it in the chat about the PXA amplifiers. Yeah, let's take some questions while we're on the subject of the power sports stuff. Mr. E says, with it being Type-C, could it have a phone app since phones now all have Type-C? Good question.
Joe Hobart does not want to hear that.
I suppose, yeah, it's possible. I don't know if we are working on an app to work with these. I think the idea right now is just to have it work with PC, and then, if there's demand, if people want it, then we could possibly expand it to like Mac OS or maybe app or something for phones. So it really just depends what people want, what people need. But I imagine it's going to stay with the laptop or PC for a little while.
Good question, though. Thank you. Next question. Jason, so 5-band parametric EQ per channel. That is correct.
Yep.
So if you want to tune left and right individually, which a lot of guys do, you can do that, or you can link them for a simpler tune. So yes, good question.
Brian. Hey, Brian, how are you doing? Can you do time alignment? The answer is no. So that's why we are calling it a simple DSP, because you have access to functions like crossovers and equalization, but you don't have access to things like time delay and all pass filters. So it's a straightforward way to tune the amplifier without getting too complex, especially in power sports applications. I would say those are maybe features that a lot of guys in quads and things aren't necessarily using because they're trying to be loud and heard over the sound of the engine. I imagine things like time delay, all pass, are maybe afterthoughts in those situations. But perhaps in the future, perhaps.
Just get comfortable with the GUI because you may be seeing more of it later. Wink, wink. I don't wink all that well. Context. Colin, hey, Colin here. Tuning in just for you. Oh, thank you, Colin. Colin is part of the R&D team, and he's actually the guy that loaned us a lot of this stuff. Thank you, Colin. Oh, yeah, Colin's going to be on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Colin. Colin hates the camera, but he is so smart and useful. We'd love to have you on, Colin. Thanks for tuning in, Colin. Now he just tuned out. Jeremy, good evening, Jeremy. So you have to unscrew the amp from install to plug in the back to retune it. Yes. Now, this, Ernie, can you do the close-up again? Is it
here,
like that?
Let me see. I might be in a better position to hold it for him. There.
Okay, so you see this plate here? You take out those 6 screws, and that is sealed. That is watertight. That's part of the IP6667. That is watertight. So you have to remove those 6 screws, and then you'll see the bank of dip switches, and at the end of the bank of dip switches is where the dongle plugs in. And when you plug in that dongle, the very last dip switch, you turn it to the on position, and a blue LED will light up, and that'll tell you that the DSP is active. And then you download the software, and that's how you do the tune. So yes, you must remove the amplifier to turn it over to get to that dip switch and dongle plug-in. Good question. Next question.
Ken Alexander says the phone would be the way to go. Loads of people don't own PCs anymore because also everything is available for mobile devices. Thanks for the feedback, Ken.
Good, Ken. And Colin's watching, so thanks, Ken. Colin,
right,
make a note, please. Next question.
All right. think we maybe covered everything
is
on
that
the power
everything?
sports, yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the KMC4. Why don't you go first?
Sure. So the KMC4 is a marine head unit that we've had for a little bit, but a couple of interesting things about it. We've actually upgraded it and are kind of doing a re-release on the radio for a couple different reasons. One reason, it's kind of a neat little trivia deal, but the KMC4 that we offered before used the same chip that this one is using inside, but the KMC4, the chip that we were using had the capability to add like a hands-free microphone and do Bluetooth calling. So what we've done is we've changed the back of the radio, so it's actually a little bit more shallow than the previous version of the KMC4. And we've added a hands-free microphone in the package as well. So this kind of coincides with the Power Sports Bluetooth remote and the software and everything, because now if you guys put a KMC4 in a quad side by side, or whatever you guys want to put it in, you can now mount that microphone in the vehicle, and now you've got access to hands-free calling features. So it was a simple and obvious upgrade for us because it already had the capability. All we needed to do was add a jack to it basically on the back. And then, of course, made some other improvements, making the chassis smaller so it fits in more spaces and less deep holes in the dash and things like that. But some other things about the KMC4 you guys might not be aware of. You've got tons of RCA outputs, and you do have a Zone 2 control on the KMC4. So one thing you might use Zone 2 for is like some tower speakers off the back of your quad, or maybe if you're using it on a boat, you can run the tower speakers off the rear. You know, if guys are going like skiing behind or something like that, you can control them, yeah, with the Zone 2 controls. But something else that we like to talk about is going to be our marine zone controller. So what you're going to want to do with this, if you're pairing it with the KMC4, is to use your Zone 2 output and go and turn that all the way up in the KMC4 head unit, run it into this guy, and then now you have separate control for each one of your zones, all the way up to full volume or down to nothing. So this guy can give you control over tons and tons of different speakers in the boat.
One thing that we like to talk about when we're designing boat audio systems is it's better to have more zones than less zones. And let me describe this. So for example, here in Oklahoma, pontoon boats are a big deal because we have lots of really calm waters, which is great for a pontoon boat because it's basically a party barge. And on a pontoon setup, you'll have different zones. For example, on the front of the boat, you might have the area where I'm having a cocktail with my wife and I want some nice low music. I want to be able to talk to her, just have music as a background. So I've got one zone for that. Well, then you've got the cockpit where I'm driving the boat, and there I might want to have a completely different set of speakers so I can control that volume individually as well. And then of course there's the swim deck where the kids are hooting and hollering out back and they want it loud, so I've got speakers aimed out like KMTC's aimed out back with its own volume control, and so I can control the volume throughout the boat individually depending on what's going on in that area of the boat. And a great analogy is if you've ever been to a restaurant and you're sitting right beneath the speaker, like Cafe Mona. I love Cafe Mona here in Stillwater. Great Mexican restaurant. We had lunch there today. But there's one booth table that has a speaker right above it, and that speaker's always way too loud. And the reason is that speaker has to fill half of the dining room from one speaker. So if you're here, it's too loud. If you're over there, you can barely hear it. Well, if you have multiple zones, multiple speaker setups, you can level the volume to a comfortable level throughout the environment without having hot spots. And that's the beauty of having multi-zone control. Now this is also able to be disassembled, and these have separate circuit boards. So if you wanted to take apart this case and move these different volume controls to different locations of the boat, you can do that too, because they simply plug in with a, what is it, RJ45? RJ45 cable, so you can move these all over the boat. And because the audio does not pass through that, it's just a control voltage, you don't have to worry about picking up noise somewhere in the boat. So this is a great accessory to add to the KMC4 in any audio system, including RVs. My mom
yeah.
and her husband had this beautiful RV, and it's got an outdoor dining area with a TV and a stove, and it's on the outside of the RV. It's got its own volume control, so they can have different volume outside, different volume inside, and it's fantastic. Lots of uses for it.
So one other thing, while we're on the subject of marine, and we've got these fuse holders here, I always like to talk about our marine fuses. These are kind of unique, and I think they have a place in power sports as well. But if you guys look here, we like to say that we want to mount our fuses within a foot of the battery or less, as short as you can, really. This basically allows you to put the fuse directly on top of the battery terminal. So you mount that tongue there to the battery terminal, and there's a lug on top that's got a bolt that holds the fuse down. So you get a special type of fuse with this guy. What you get with the fuse out looks like this. It's just a little bolt, basically. But you see how that bolt is isolated from the tongue here? When you take your fuse, there's a little hole that goes through it, and there's a conductor inside that fuse, and this is completely sealed, so if it blows, no sparks or anything are going to start a fire, ignite any fumes, which is really important in a boat. And then when you put it on that lug, put your nut back down on the top. Now the only way your electricity is getting conducted is through that sealed fuse housing. So we sell these all the way up to 300 amp, which is what I've got here in my hand. And we used a ton of these fuse holders and fuses in our Bronco build because it allowed us to mount them basically directly to the top of the lithium cells. And that leaves as little room for error or unprotected shorts as possible. So kind of see applications in power sports as well, because obviously safety is a top concern for anybody doing an install. But this way you don't have to cut your wire or break it. You know, the fuse is right there on the battery terminal, and kind of a neat thing.
This is a good time to talk about KICKER Real Marine. And Real Marine is it's more than just a slogan that we use. Real Marine is an audio cookbook, an electronics cookbook for marine audio. And it basically goes through the steps for marine certification and marine grade product. So for example, as Jacob was saying, this is an ignition protected fuse. It is the only type of fuse that is allowed in OEM boat builders because it is ignition protected. As Jacob said, if the fuse should pop, it's completely sealed. So if there are gas fumes in the same space of the cargo space where the amplifier is installed or the battery bank's installed, there's no spark. So you're not going to cause a fire. If you're using a traditional car audio fuse in the application, bad, very, very bad. Because if you pop a fuse, it's done. So that's why we have to use these to be ABYC compliant. ABYC is the American Boat and Yacht Council, and they basically take what the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard puts out and put it into a formula for OEM boat builders and how they can install their electronics and the requirements. And so this Real Marine is a part of that. In addition, it is being IP66 rated on this radio, or IP66 on the Bluetooth receiver, IP67 on the amplifiers. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration when we're designing marine-specific product, because if you simply take car audio, paint it white, put it in a boat, it's not Real Marine and it will fail.
What did we do with our first ever run of marine speakers, Aaron? I think it was stamped steel grills, painted white, and cardstock terminals. Because I mean, that was probably over 20 years ago.
More than 20, yeah.
More than 20 years ago. Literally, it was the idea in the industry at the time was to just take car stuff and paint it white.
Yeah.
But obviously, the cardstock would get wet and get soggy. The stamped steel would rust. You know, so. We've come a long way since then, and of course being members of all these groups, like in-groups with boat manufacturers and stuff, means that we have to adhere to all their standards with the products that we make.
Show them that amp kit real quick.
Yep. There we go.
Notice the yellow wire. Wait a minute, yellow? Why is there yellow? Because, oh, sorry, you were going to say it. I'm sorry.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh. So yellow is DC ground in a boat. In big boats, yachts, 50 foot and above, you've got AC and DC. So when you're hooked up to shore power, you're running AC. but you still have DC in the boat. And so DC yellow is ground, and AC black is ground. I know, this is confusing. I had to learn all this stuff from Phil, but that's why we have yellow and red in these amp kits for Marine specifically, because we have to be compliant with U.S. Coast Guard and ABYC and NMMA and all the other acronyms.
Yeah, can you guys imagine if you were working on a boat and you cut into like hot AC, like 110, and just because you think it's the ground wire or something? Yeah, not a fun time.
Also, of course, we're using our oxygen-free copper, and it is tin, so it is corrosion-free. So you could use our basic car audio kit in a Marine as well. It's just not compliant because of the color coding. And also our car audio kits have car audio fuses, not Marine fuses, but it's the same OFC copper wire inside. So you could actually use that if you're in a pinch. But these kits are available, and we do recommend you always use these with any of our Marine installs. And of course, they also work in car audio installs, Jeeps, side-by-sides, whatever it is. And why is that amplifier there?
I don't remember.
So we just wanted to show you a use case. This is our 5-channel KXM amplifier. It's a 900.5. So it's got, 400 watts RMS to the sub-channel. Or no, is it 5? I don't remember. We've got so many products now. But it is 5 channels, and so the 4 channels in stereo, the 5th channel is a subwoofer channel, and it's a great use to go with this radio because this radio has front, rear, and sub output, so you could run it front, rear, sub, and then have your zone 2 with another amplifier like a KXMA 1200.2, and you could use that to power up your cans or whatever it is you've got going on in your boat. So there's a couple use case scenarios. Are there any questions we should be answering?
No one-out kit yet. Brian, are you talking about Marine?
Yeah, we do have one in Marine.
We do?
Yeah. Yeah, I just grabbed this one because it's lighter to carry.
Yep, 8 gauge.
We also have spools of aught gauge wire that's not in a kit, so if you just want to buy the spool wire, we have those available too. And incidentally, in the Marine wire, power and ground are the same length, because in boats, wherever you're putting your amplifier, you're having to run all the way back to the battery anyway because there's no metal ground plane. So everything is equal length. So they are more expensive because you've got double the copper.
We say there should be no ground plane in your boat. That's not to say somebody hasn't done it, but what about any other questions? Sam, new RGB controller for the new line with RGBW support? I'm gonna say
Next question, please.
Next question.
Thanks for the question, Sam. Next question, please.
Can it? Bobby says, can it link up to other boats or side-by-sides? Yeah, I think he was referring to the KMC4. So the answer is no. It's a standalone unit. It doesn't have like a party mode feature or broadcast mode feature. If you want something that does link up to other side-by-sides or boats, our power bars do. We have the KPB1 and the PB2, and those have a broadcast mode, which means you can pair as many of them together. Regardless of whether they're on a different side-by-side or not, you can play the same music from all of them. So, pretty cool feature. Mr. E, for the Power Sports amp that you have there, what's the fuse recommendation?
That's a good question.
See, it's a 1005. I'd have to check the product manual to know for sure. It's available at kicker.com, and we have all of our product manuals with all of the fuse recommendations. But Aaron's going to go ahead and get this one pulled up for you so we can get you an answer live on air.
Pull up my laptop real quick. So I'm on kicker.com, PXA amplifiers, and let's go down here. So there's 1005. You can see there's a 301, a 601. Those are mono bass amps. The 1005 5-channel, the 404 stereo. There's the DSP adapter. Let me click on that real quick, just so you can see it. So it's not available just yet, but that's what it looks like, and that's what it'll look like when it's plugged into the amplifier. See there's the dip switches I was talking about, and that little blue LED is lit up there because it's on and working. So let me back up here. We want to see the fusing for the 1005. Good question. Let's see, where is it?
It's probably at the very bottom.
You're right, thank you.
And then let's see.
Dimensions.
Where's the link for the product manual? It's usually... down there at the bottom of the page. Support. There we go.
Oh yeah, there we go. Manual. There. See, we can find the information. This will probably tell us all of them. So let's go here. Overview. Yes. Warning.
See if you can do Control F.
Oh.
And then search for fuse.
Control F. Look at learning fun stuff today. Whoops, that's not. Sorry, guys. Fat fingered it. Hope my wife's not watching. Fuse installation should be as close as possible. Blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so you see it where you typed in fuse?
Yep.
Hit the down arrow a couple times, and it'll cycle to like the next.
There we
you
are.
go. So,
wait, that's
scroll down just a
3
little
and
bit.
6. Whoops. This is why we have young people on the
Teaching
show.
Aaron how to use computers.
Golly. Whoops, whoops. Okay, okay.
All right. Anyway, if we can't find it here in a second, you get the idea.
There it is. That's not it.
That's for the mono amps. Anyway, my guess would be probably like a 100 amp fuse or 150 amp fuse. Yeah, so that's where you guys can find it. It's in the product manuals for all these amps. Regardless of which amp you're trying to find, we've got it for the CXA, we have it for the KXMA amplifiers, Warhorse, any of them. You'll find that information on the website. Speaking of Warhorse and high-powered applications, I think we have something else to talk about, don't we, Aaron?
150 amp.
150 amp fuse on that one.
Okay, we got it. All right, Ernie, enough laptop. Thank you. I was determined. Yes, I'm sorry, I took the thunder away.
You're all right.
So let's clear some space.
Yeah, so give us just a second.
I'm going to let Jacob lift it. Here, let me take the light stuff.
Yeah, go for it. Move it all to our table back here.
Bring up your tools. So what we're going to do, friends, neighbors, we're going to have Jacob do a reconing of a Solo X18 live, because Jacob has done it a few times, and he loves doing it, and he's stronger than me. So he's going to do the hard part, I'm going to do the talking part, and we're going to show you how easy it is.
All right.
Now, while he's doing this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the subwoofer. In case you're new to the Solo X lineup, there's a 10-inch, a 12-inch, a 15-inch, and now an 18-inch. They all use the same massive motor structure. It's designed for 2,000 watts RMS. So whether it's a 10, 12, 15, 18, it's all 2,000 watts RMS. Now when we say 2,000 watts RMS, that is a very conservative all-day rating. And just to remind you, we took the 12, actually Jeff took the 12, and unauthorized, Jeff decided to run the Solo X12 all week. So he ran it at 2,000 watts, band limited pink noise, for 4 days. And the only reason he stopped is because it was Friday afternoon, he wanted to go home, so we shut it down. So basically that voice coil took 2,000 watts of pink noise for 4 days and did not fail. Zero failure. So when we say 2,000 watts, we mean real 2,000 watts. Now there's guys like Drew Jones who are using way more power than we recommend. In fact, there are quite a few guys, including Kicker with our Bronco. We have 1 Warhorse per woofer, which is about twice the rated power for that woofer. A Warhorse 3601 actually makes about 4,000 watts consistently, and some of them are even more than that. And so you can run a ton of power into any of these subwoofers. So basically, 1 Warhorse, 2 10s, or 12s, or 15s, or 18s is the hot setup. Unless you're crazy and you want to go 1 amp per woofer, which, you know, we don't put that in the manual, but obviously we're doing it, and a lot of guys and girls out there are doing it, so they will handle the power. And the amplifier obviously is putting out tons and tons of energy, tons and tons of heat, and that motor structure has to dissipate that heat. So one of the ways that we do that is this forced air cooling. So on the back, you can't see it now, but on the back of the woofer, there are holes, I think there's 8 holes that go around the magnet structure. And those holes are the way the hot air is pushed out of the voice coil area and cool air is sucked in. So every time the woofer moves in or out, it is pushing hot air out and bringing cool air in. And that dramatically reduces the voice coil temperature. I think 20 to 25 C, not F. C is how much it changes that voice coil temperature. So when you look at it on the Klippel analyzer and you're running full power, you'll notice on a graph, it comes up quickly, gets hotter, 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 and then it plateaus. And it never goes higher than its thermal rated temperature. So it can run basically indefinitely at rated power with music or with test tones or with pink noise. So it is absolutely stout. Now our good friend, Mr. Rodriguez, you may have seen his YouTube video. He took a Solo X15 and he put it in Delilah. And he hit it with 20,000 watts. One woofer, 20,000 watts. He hit it 6 times. And he hit 180 dB SPL. 180 dB with a single 15-inch woofer, 20,000 watts. So when we say they're stout, they're absolutely stout. Now look, he's got to take it apart.
Yep, so I don't know how long that took me, but it doesn't take very long. And I don't know if anybody caught this earlier, but I literally put the trim ring for the top of the subwoofer around my shoulders. I was going to see if anybody noticed it in the chat, but I didn't see anybody say anything. That's how huge this subwoofer is. I'm sure you guys can see it on camera. But anyway, so I got it taken apart. And one of the other cool things about this, and what makes a Solo X a Solo X...
They can't see the cone.
Oh, that's all right. I was just going to say, you don't need any glue to recone these subwoofers. So this lip on the outer edge of the surround, I think you guys can see it maybe against my shirt. Yeah, there you go. So there is that square trim ring that I had around my shoulders. That clamps down on top of that lip and kind of holds the surround in place. And there's 8 screws that hold that around the top. And then there's 8 screws that hold the spider landing in place from the bottom here. Once you get all those screws out, that whole assembly pops out just like how I had it. Then when you're ready to put the new cone assembly back in, let's see if I can move this a little bit, make it easier for me. It comes with these shims. And you're gonna take these guys and put them inside the forced air cooling holes. And of course I can't see because I'm on the other side, so I'm gonna come around here and take your shims and put them in all the forced air cooling holes. And they're just gonna kind of pop out on the other side. What is that? Is that bent? There we go. No?
Oh yeah, you're hitting the...
What was I hitting?
You're hitting the top plate.
Oh, gotcha.
Don't poke my eye out.
Try not to. I'm not sure it is.
Oh, it's probably sticking to the magnet.
It is. I'm having a hard time getting it.
So it's a triple stacked ferrite magnet, and I forget exactly how many pounds it is, but it's monstrous.
Never been that hard before. Maybe I'm just losing my mind.
Oh, I muted me? Oh, Jacob, you muted yourself.
Well, nobody needs to listen to me anyway.
Jacob was muted.
I muted myself.
So he's putting these 8 shims in, and of course they're getting stuck to the magnet. But this is what allows the voice coil to be properly aligned. Now, if you've ever reconed a subwoofer, you'll know how critical it is that the voice coil is properly aligned in the gap. Because if it's just a little bit off, like millimeters off, it'll rub against the pole piece or it'll rub against the motor structure, and it will damage your voice coil in a hurry. And so these shims help you get it lined up properly.
There we go.
We do have a video on our YouTube channel, and our Facebook and X, where you can see John Myers doing a recone, and he's actually got a timer running. I think it takes him about 8 minutes to do it.
Mm-hmm. So once you get all of your shims in place, you're going to come and look inside the subwoofer. You'll see them all sticking, and then you're going to push them up against the pole piece there. Make sure they're kind of evenly spaced all the way around. I'm sure this is very hard, if not impossible, for you guys to see. There we go. So with all those up against the pull piece. They're kind of sucked into the center, and that's going to be basically the gap that we need to leave around that coil, the former and the pull piece. You're just going to take your new cone assembly, line it up with the shims on the inside.
You're muted again. So what he's saying is that you line up with the shims and the pull piece.
There we go.
And he just pushed it in place. Unmute yourself again. And it is now properly aligned. Now, side note.
I turned it off completely that time.
There are two impedance options with all of the woofers, with all Solex woofers. We have a dual 1 ohm coil or a dual 2 ohm coil. Now you're probably asking yourself, hey, if I started with a dual 2 and I wanted to go to a dual 1, can I do that? No, you cannot. And I'll tell you why. The gap is so specific that there is not room for the dual 1 in the dual 2 motor structure. The dual 1 actually has more copper in it, and so it's too wide, and it'll just rub up and down inside the gap. So you cannot switch voice coil impedances with this frame because it is so finely tuned to give you proper response that the voice coils are not interchangeable. So please keep that in mind. Make sure you get the right subwoofer the first time because you cannot interchange them.
Aaron, did you tell them about the power connections on these guys yet?
I did not. So the power connections, which you can't see because Jacob's working on it, the power connections, you've actually got two different options. You've got our square push pin, which allows you to simply, it's spring loaded, you push it in, you put in up to 8 gauge speaker wire and release it, and it grips it tightly. Or if you're doing multi-sub installations, you've also got a terminal block that accepts 8 gauge wire. So there's actually 2 sets of terminals with screw downs for 8 gauge wire in addition to the push terminal. So there's 3 connections per voice coil, or actually there's 6 connections per voice coil, but 3 on each terminal. So there's multiple ways to wire up these subwoofers because we want to make it as easy as possible to get this subwoofer installed properly and wired up correctly. Now, as you probably know, if you're running 2, 3, 4, 5,000 watts RMS, you need a very heavy gauge speaker wire. In this case, we're actually using power wire, 8 gauge power wire. And so that will get all the current transfer to that voice coil with minimal effort. Now, is there any questions we can take while Jacob's finishing this up? He's almost done. First question, Mr. 67. Good evening, sir. Thanks for being here. Is that one of those square ST series in the back right under the KICKER logo, or is that a square something else? Way back there?
Oh, man.
I don't think we're allowed to talk about that.
I don't know. It looks kind of like an ST series, doesn't it?
Yeah, ST series. That's what
it is square.
Okay, good question, Mr. 67. Next question, Mark. Good evening, Mark. When will the new grills be available? Are they not yet available? I thought they were. Let me go to kicker.com real quick because I thought the grills were already available. Maybe they're not. The grills he's talking about, we have new steel mesh grills, which are, let's see, accessories, which are, we like to call them screen doors because they're like black mesh like a screen door, but they're a very stylish upscale grill designed for all of our square except Solo X and all of our round except Comp Q drivers. Nope, they're not yet available. And it's just a really nice, classy look, but it's also really good protection for your subwoofers. So not yet, Mark, and I don't have any more information. Ooh. Sorry about that.
I almost fell out of my chair.
Oh, please don't. Next question. What do we got? Good evening, Todd. Thank you for being here. When is the Solo X unloaded enclosure being released? That is also a good question, and just today I was working on a document about the unloaded Solo X enclosures with Jeremy Brown. As you probably know, Jeremy Brown is part of the R&D team, and he's the guy that keeps all the specs in one place, all the teal small parameters. He helps us design the enclosures that work with our drivers, and so he and I are working on this document that will help the average consumer. Most of you folks aren't average, I know that, but we have a lot of average consumers. And it'll help an average consumer decide what amplifier to power up with their Solo X and which impedance Solo X to purchase. That doesn't answer your question, I know that, but they are coming soon. And I can't tell you exactly when because I don't have that information, but when they are available, we'll certainly announce it on UnMasked. So great question, thank you. By the way, there are 2 of them, one for a single Solo X12 and a dual Solo X12.
Can I interrupt you really quick?
Sure.
So when you were talking about document that Jeremy was putting together, it also reminded me, and I want to share with you guys this because it was important and relevant on my trip to Missouri. But we have a document available on the KICKER website, or if we don't, we will soon, that talks about recommended crossover points for speakers of different sizes. So if you guys maybe run a shop and you have a new guy that you're trying to train, that would be a great resource for him to learn what crossover points to use on different speakers. But also if you're using an LX amplifier or anything where you can set active crossovers and you're not sure about where to set it, then this document on our website is going to be a great place to start.
Ernie, can you pull up my laptop real quick? This is the document that Jacob's talking about. KICKER's recommended high-pass crossover points by speaker size. And so this will show you, it's not working?
It's given a Morse code.
Okay. So it's on kicker.com. There we go. And so let's say you're using our Street Series 9-inch mid-ranges. We recommend a high pass of 80 hertz at 12 dB per octave. Now, if you are using LX amplifiers, you have the option to go to 24 dB, so you can play with that 80 a little bit, because at 24 dB, you are reducing the low bass frequencies to that driver much more rapidly, so you can actually lower that crossover point a bit. So these are just recommended starting points for our drivers to give you a target, but you can certainly change as needed for best sound. Thanks, Ernie.
I also want to shout out our really good friend, Drew Jones, Bassaholic. He's putting together a section on his website called The Database, like B-A-S-S. Cool pun.
Cute.
But it's got a lot of good information on there. I know he's been working really hard to compile that stuff. So if you guys are curious, or maybe there's a topic that you want to learn more about in car stereo, go check that out. He's got a lot of good information available on his website.
Any other questions before we wrap things up tonight? We got a few more things, but we always like to get to the questions if possible. Nothing else? Okay. Well, you did the recone. I wasn't keeping track of the time, but that was probably leisurely 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Usually. So there you go. That's how easy it is to recone a Solo X18 in real time.
Let's get that thing out of the way. Did I mute myself again? No.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions. I always go to Travis. Travis, he manages our tech support team. And I always go to Travis. I say, Travis, I need a couple of tech questions that have come in over the last week or maybe the last month, something that's relevant to what it is we're talking about each night. And so the first question he gave me tonight was, I purchased the L7X18 and looking for extreme output. Can this subwoofer handle 2 WX 3600.1s, one in each coil? Great question. The official answer is no. The subwoofer is rated for 2,000 watts RMS. So the ideal setup is one Warhorse, 3601, and 2 Solo X10s or 12s or 15s or 18s. 2 subwoofers, 1 amplifier. Now, here's the wink wink. In our Bronco, we're running 1 Solo X12 per Warhorse amplifier, and we have been, and it's fantastic performance. No problems at all. But it's not recommended. If you know what you're doing, obviously you can get away with it, but that's not what we recommend. So great question, thank you, but 4,000 watts per voice coil, that's a bit excessive. Anything to add to that?
No,
No?
pretty much covered it.
Okay, next question. I'm looking to purchase the KBTR, that's this guy, that's our new Bluetooth receiver controller, and curious if the low-pass crossover on the subwoofer output is defeatable. Low-pass crossover defeatable. Do you know the answer to that question?
The answer is going to be no. So the low-pass crossover is set at 100 hertz, 12 dB per octave, I believe. And that's, simply because if you don't have the capability to set a crossover point for whatever reason, it's going to be fixed, and you're not going to play too much information or too high frequencies through your subwoofer.
Or wasted information.
Or wasted information. It's wasting everything above 100 hertz in this case. But if you guys are looking for a lower crossover point, you can set that crossover point on your amplifier. It'll like stack and maybe cause some weird stuff if you looked at it on an RTA, but I don't think it's not going to cause any problems audibly. Most people never notice the difference. But the crossover is not defeatable. It's a great question.
Okay, now fail picks. This is one of everybody's favorite things to view. Now remember, if your fail pick is something that we share, we're not making fun of you. We're just laughing with you because we all do. Oh, Ernie's giving me the weights.
Double time it here.
Ernie is hoofing it back to his cubic back there. So I will talk slower so as to give him some time to get there. So fail picks. So can I do fail picks or are we, no, not yet? Okay, so here's the first fail pick. Come on, open up. Full screen. This is a rat's nest. Jacob, what do you like about this picture?
T-taps. I love T-taps. God.
Now, look, this one has got both wires in one T-tap.
Oh, okay. I didn't even. I'm trying to figure out what the purpose would be.
Oh, this is Scotch locks.
Oh, Scotch locks. My mistake.
Scotch. Yeah.
T-taps are the ones that just splice onto the wire. They don't. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. I don't even know why they would have two of them spliced together like that.
Do you mean shorted together?
Shorted is a better word.
Yeah.
God.
So don't do that.
And I'm curious, you know me, I always like to look at the background
Yes.
of what we're looking at. So it looks like some kind of factory radio or like AC controls maybe right there, but what is, I'm trying to figure out what that is behind that. Like
leaves, dead leaves.
Is that dead leaves?
No, I think it's probably it's unagi.
I don't know. Maybe it's like a redneck repair on one of the mounting brackets or something. I'm not sure. Somebody says foam. I don't know. It looks. There are a couple things about this that are making me question it. But
all right, next one. Here's good fun.
So this is battery delete with. I'm kidding. It's like using wood blocks as a distribution point at the factory battery location. Good Lord.
I think it would work, actually.
Well, look at all the different wire colors. I mean, it would probably work, but why would you? Okay, so your ground is either gray, black, or red, and your power is either purple, red, black, or another shade of red. I mean, they fused it at least.
That's a good thing. Wait, where is the fuse? I don't see the fuse. Oh, okay, there. Sorry. Ernie's telling me, there's a fuse. Okay, so we do have a fuse.
Is it bolted to the computer module? Dude.
Yeah.
The stuff you see.
Okay, next. Now, this is sad because this is a really nice speaker. This is a Focal. I think it's the Utopia series maybe, or anyway, this is a Focal speaker. This is a nice speaker, but clearly it is not going to perform as expected because it's not even sealed.
Well, okay. I'm looking at the screw attached to a washer, attached to another screw that's holding the speaker in place. That took a lot of effort, yeah. That's like clamping the washer down and drilling a couple holes in it, you know. I mean, that took some... I bet in the amount of time it took them to do that, you probably could have made an adapter bracket that would work better than that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a shame because that's a really good speaker. It's not going to perform in that application. So, all right. So there's our fails. Now let's look at our cool picks.
And you know, I'm not ashamed to admit, before I got into car stereo, I did something like that with the speaker. You know, I'm pretty sure in one of my first ever cars when I was a teenager, I mounted some 6.5s or something and a 6x9 hole, and I only used 2 of the mounting holes because, you know, I was like, hey, that's enough. It's going to play, it's going to work, it's not going to move. I didn't know any better. Yeah, when you ask MacGyver to do a door speaker.
Cassie, good one, Cassie. You should write our material. So as you all probably know, Oklahoma State University is right here in Stillwater. And today, Mr. Irby and Tom, our National Director of Sales and Marketing, VP of Sales and Marketing, and Jay Ralston, the General Manager of KICKER, the 3 of those guys, along with Chet, who is our International Sales Manager, they all went down to Australia for 2 weeks. Now, this was a business trip, although Tom came home with a really nice tan. It was a business trip. And
that's what looked different about him.
So he was relaxed and he had a tan. But the reason I tell you all this is because they just got back, and Steve came back a little bit under the weather, which happens when you travel a lot. So he said, Aaron, Aaron, I've got a tour for some international students from OSU coming today. This would be yesterday he said this. So he said, can you manage the tour for me? I said, yeah, happy to do that for you. So we had, I think there's 13 or 14 students, most of them from Japan and a couple from China. And they're international students. They're just here for a month on an exchange program from their various universities. And so we did a full KICKER tour. And I want to show you just a couple of the pictures. Ernie, can you pull up my laptop again? So these are the students. And of course, we always take a picture in the UnMasked studio, right? Of course we do, because it's one of the highlights of the tour. And so all these young men and women, and of course this is their professor, their teacher, Brian, great guy, and they all came by the studio and we hung out a little bit. Of course, they wanted to be silly with me, and so we did a goofy picture. But
it looks like you're laying on a picnic blanket or something, like with that pose.
Is it my shirt? Is that what it is? But we started a new thing. So now when you take a KICKER tour, you also have to take a rebuild position for an hour. So we had all of these students building something. This is Seth. He was showing what to do.
That's really cool.
We had all these students building some of our tailgate audio systems. So if you come for a KICKER tour, you're going to be asked to build something. So they spent about an hour building up our tailgate audio. Here they're actually installing the control center into the bezel, putting them all together, and it was super fun. They did a great job. And this young lady is actually, she's from Iran. Her brother used to work here at KICKER, Amir. Hi, if you're watching tonight, hello. Amir, her brother, worked here at KICKER for a while, probably more than a year. And they came from Iran, and English not so much, but hardworking, very intelligent. In fact, we had Amir here in the studio one evening, and he was running cameras for us just to try it out. And his sister, who you just saw in that picture, she drew that picture of Steve Irby and gave it to him as a gift to say thank you for giving a job to my brother, who's now actually, he and his wife are in Louisiana. She's going to university there. But that beautiful picture that you saw in there, she drew that. She said she did it in 3 days.
Wow.
That's really fast. She's very talented, sweet young lady. And she says that she watches the show, so she's probably in there now. She may not be chatting with us, but hopefully you're watching. And so, yeah, we had a lovely tour and a good time, and so I just wanted to share those pictures with you. Now we'll show you another cool pic. Actually, Juan Mendoza. Juan, you are such a, I can't say the word I was going to say. You're such a great guy on Facebook. You do so much for us and the community. And I wanted to show you a video that he posted. I got to find the video that he posted. And it's a great shot, a great video of a really cool truck. Here it is. Ernie, can you pull me back up again? Let's see, you guys taught me tonight. F11, right? Function F11. Okay.
There we go.
Check this out.
Teaching them how to use computers.
Wait, that's not the video. Where? Oh, there we go. Okay. Check out this truck. 6 Solberg 15s. These are vintage KICKER subs. Look at those. 6 15s in a clamshell, hammering away in a sweet pickup. Thank you, Juan. Juan, you're pretty amazing, man. You answer everybody's questions in the chat. every picture. You comment on everything in Kicker Club. You are an MVP for sure. So thanks for sharing this awesome video, awesome build with our kicker friends.
Andy said that guy lives right by him in Pittsburgh.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
It's cool.
Thank you for that. And then I have one more picture I want to show you. Ernie always finds the best pics to share. Oh, okay. So Andy gave us this next picture.
It's coming down the pipe.
All right, Ernie, here we go.
I don't know that. Oh yeah, that's cool.
Beautiful.
I love just the right angles on those hard lines. I mean, there's something cool about them. I don't know.
It's beautiful. And look at the stitching. It's just gorgeous. Air ride suspension. Now, I do wonder if you ever had to service that sub, what a lot of work. Oh, man.
Unless those, sometimes those lines I've seen are cosmetic.
Oh.
Which I'm hoping that is the case here. It looks like maybe they're not because they go straight to an airlift module, but sometimes those lines can be cosmetic in the trunk just for that exact reason, because if you need to service something, it'd be a pain to get it all removed. But
beautiful install. Thank you, Andy. I'm sorry I gave Ernie credit. Ernie gets credit for a lot of stuff. So those are the cool picks, the fail picks. Events. We do have some events coming up. We have American Flat Track in Daytona. If you're in Daytona or anywhere nearby, it is Bike Week in Daytona, and the weather is way better than Stillwater, Oklahoma, which was freezing, then boiling, now freezing again. But American Flat Track, big motors, big motorcycles going really fast and turning left. Check that out. Bagger Nationals on Saturday, also in Daytona. Bagger Nationals is another event that if you like bikes, you like audio, you're going to want to check that out. So 2 great events in Daytona. And the third thing is complete opposite, Snowcross in Elk River, Minnesota. So if you like it really cold, Elk River, Minnesota, Snowcross, Friday and Saturday. And these guys are driving super high-powered snowmobiles really fast. And man, the wind chill when you're going that fast on the snow, whew, it is brutal. But if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. My friend Aaron Dahl lives up there in Minnesota, and he's probably ice fishing right now because he doesn't want to watch me live on TV. Thank you, Aaron.
Is he a 2A Aaron or an E Aaron?
Double A Ron, Aaron Dahl. He calls me Porky because he's the other white meat.
Dude.
I know. But anyway, so if you're into those sorts of things, that's what's going on. Let's do some oh wait, CM, that X is dwarfing everything near the T.
Yeah, it's dwarfing me. Brian Gary wants to shout out, say Skills is going to be at Master Tech in Arizona. I know we've talked about it before. Aaron and I are super into Skills USA.
Yes.
We've been going every year and helping at the local level as well. Brian Gary is going to be co-chair of Skills USA, and him and Chris Jack are going to be in person at Master Tech Expo. So if you guys are curious about how you can get involved with Skills at a local level, maybe you want to help with your local tech schools, or you want to get involved in your state competition even, reach out to Brian. He'll get you in touch, or Chris, they'll get you in touch with the state chair and set you on your happy way. So.
And shout out to Brian at Master Tech, Brian Schmidt, Master Tech. He actually gave as prizes to Skills USA, he gave away 4 tickets. I think it was 4, right? 4 tickets to Master Tech Expo for free. These are prizes. So the 4 winners, they're all going to be there with Brian and Chris Jack at Master Tech. And they're going basically for free. And they're going to have an amazing experience at Master Tech with Brian Schmidt and all the guys there. So big shout out to Brian Schmidt at Master Tech. Thank you very much for doing that. Brian, thanks for stepping up and taking on the co-chair. And Chris Jack, thanks for being the backbone of Skills USA installation competition for so many years. I wish we could be there, but we can't be everywhere all the time. So now let's give away some free stuff. Who are the winners tonight? 3rd place is
Yomira?
Mr. R from Connecticut.
Yomira R?
Yomira R from Connecticut. I'm sorry if we're not saying it right. You're the 3rd place winner. Wait, what's 3rd place? 3rd place is EB400 Bluetooth in-ear monitors. 2 koozies, and an unmasked t-shirt in the correct size. Second place is Tara L. from Missouri. Tara L. from Missouri, congratulations. You're second place winner. You get the TW2 in-ear monitors, 2 koozies, and a t-shirt in your size. And first place winner is Daniel T. from North Carolina. Congratulations, Daniel. You get the Bullfrog.
Yeah, Bullfrog
I love
100.
the Bullfrog. BF 100. 2 koozies and a t-shirt, of course. So thank you all for being here with us tonight. I do want to let you know that Andy's doing his after show tonight, so stay tuned for Andy. He'll be on right after us. And we'll be back in the studio on our regularly scheduled time, Tuesday, March 18th. We'll be back, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be the LX amplifier dyno.
That's right.
Dyno with Mr. Joe Hobart, one of our favorite people on the show. Great guest. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We do appreciate your time and your attention, and we love being here with you. Good night.
Have a good night, guys.